Howdy folks, Seskinator11 here, and this is my Outlast 2 Insane Difficulty 1 battery use video walkthrough. We're going to pick up immediate where we left off, and I should really focus in on this because this is another cornfield section, which, is one of my favorites. Basically what you're going to do here is you're going to stick to the left-hand side, right by the fence, the barbed wire fence here. Be sure not to touch that fence because, again, that fence will damage you. And that is not what we need on this game at all, especially in this run. So just keep on keeping on. On the left-hand side here, you're going to see that little light peering through the plants up ahead, the crops. And over here, I just wait a little bit, and I check to see if there's anybody there. Now, word on the street says sometimes there's a guy over there, and it really depends on how fast you are through those cornfields. At least, that's what I've heard in people doing previous runs and footage that I've seen. But just in case, I go ahead and lock that door, because whoever comes out will have a shorter time of finding me in this building. So, immediately you're going to the left over here, pick up this crank, flip around. I almost got cock-blocked by that door there, fantastically. You're going to come out here, go up the stairs, and put the crank into this water channel here, and you're going to close that off. And that will effectively open up the path for the next section of the game. So again, be very fast here, because you don't want to be intercepted by any other person coming out of that door, because that could be effectively a game over. So make haste, go underneath this area here, crawl underneath. As soon as you start crawling, the scripted event is going to be the guys will notice you and the flashlights will start blaring away as you slide down this hill here. They're going to realize that going down there is a very bad idea because Marta, the ASMR specialist, our favorite of this game, is going to intercept us here. But we don't know that quite yet, because, again, the game wants to troll us. So, finding Martha here, I should explain that again. Finding Martha here always happens. So you're going to walk up ahead just like I did to get her to start speaking. And you're going to go into a prone position, not a crouching position, but a prone position in this grass here. She can't see you in this grass. Unless, of course, she steps on you. So be sure you're not in her path at all. You're going to see her just to the right. She's flipping around, doing her thing, trying to psych me out, basically. And she's walking to the left. She could either walk to the left or to the right. It all depends on RNGesus. As soon as she walks to the left, book it to the right, follow this path right here, and squeeze in between this fence. Going off of what I said in part 1 of this video series is I always got lost in my playthrough. That was just something that I did. If you guys have seen my playthrough before, I would constantly get lost in this game. And there's bloodstains indicating where to go, there's footprints, there's handprints sometimes. And it's just one of those things where the game doesn't really do a good job of telling you where to go unless you actually know where to go. And I was saying before, it could have been just me. It could have been just my terrible intuition and my skills and observational skills, but I've actually talked to a lot of people, and many people said that there are reviews that it is really freaking hard to navigate in this game and know where to go. So that Marta section took me a long time on my first playthrough, my blind playthrough, as I recorded a few months ago. So yeah, you're safe in this section effectively after you squeeze through that fence and you picked up that hook, which is going to be very important later on, as you'll see. So you're going to squeeze again through this fence and go ahead and run up. Marta will not be active here, and you'll see why. Especially if you're familiar with this game. So I'm waiting here for a second, recharging my stamina, because again, the stamina invisible bar is absolutely atrocious in this game. You're going to sprint it past there. Marta is going to break through that wall on your left, but you're going to be too quick if you do it this way. You'll be way too quick for her to do that. Wait until your stamina recharges again, then sprint, put the hook up on that door, turn around, go to the chain, pull the chain, hit square, mash square, pull that chain, run, and then crouch underneath here, and you should have no problems with this section. Have no fear, that is again scripted. She does that automatically. Give her a little heel to the face, to that nose of hers, and you're safe.
Okay. Fuck. Keep moving.
So yeah, and this is a little transitional section until the next difficult area of the game. So now you're going to be seeing the mines where Lynn is being held, your wife, in the distance back there. And as we're kind of going through the next school area of the game, because this isn't an area that's too bad at all. I don't believe anything is of danger to us in this section. But what I would like to remind everyone is, again, I'm recording these runs, my audio, through the PS4 microphone. And what's funny is, as I was watching my first part of this series, I was just realizing how shitty the mic quality is compared to other mics you hear. But it's, again, the best I can do, and, you know, apologies for the low quality. I hope you're still able to enjoy these videos regardless. So basically, you're going to find this transparency sheet. You're going to put it up on the overhead here, and it's going to take me back to my middle school, early high school days, before everything became so electronic and projector screens became a big thing and affordable for most schools. So anyway, you'll see here that it's kind of hard to know where to go. Again, even though I'm at this point pretty familiar with the game, I don't know where the heck I'm going. But regardless, we're having fun here, and I hope you guys get some entertainment from this, and understand that we are all human and we're not perfect, even in these runs. So again, I do the best I can, and I finally find this hallway. And in this hallway here, you're going to find that you need to trigger a jump scare. If this was your first time playing this game, this jump scare is actually pretty good. And it got me very well, as you'll see in my playthrough. But again, in order to trigger it, you need to have your night vision active, apparently. However, you can run up and down this hallway, again, a very common strategy that most people have used already, to trigger it and to open the door that you're supposed to that's adjacent to this hallway. But again, it takes a couple tries. You need to run up and down towards that exit screen, then turn around again and run back towards that light. I'm doing this again to save as much battery as possible, because every little bit helps. And in this section that's coming up, the big section in this game, outside of the school, you're going to see that there's a scripted event where the two best characters, the two best enemies of the game show up, Nick and Laird. By best enemies, I mean they fucking suck. I hate their guts. I hate that section of the game. They could have done without that entire section. And that section of the game is probably what's going to put people off by this run. To complete this run without checkpoints, without any save points, and to do it from start to finish. The Nick and Laird section makes this game like basically a Call of Duty first-person shooter game, only without the ability to fight back at all. The arrows that they shoot at you, the flaming arrows, are absolutely atrocious. You're going to find there that Blake, again, auto-equips the night vision on the camera, and again wastes a little bit of juice of the battery, which is what I hate. But anyway, what I was trying to say is when Nick and Laird take your camera, it actually takes away a quarter of your battery, regardless of where it's at. It's going to take away a full quarter, which is one of the most frustrating things about that section. Now, I want to remind you folks, if you're familiar with this game and you've played it at launch, which I have not, and reading some previous patch notes, there's actually a patch that they had where the microphone on your camera uses battery, which I can't even imagine that, because there's a section coming up where you have to use your microphone in order to find Jessica and navigate this darkness. And I can't imagine how many people were frustrated with that, and I don't even know if it's possible to do that section without a microphone, but again, I wasn't familiar. I didn't play this game at launch. I waited a long time to buy it finally, when it was cheap. So yeah, this run is made slightly easier by, again, having the microphone not use any battery on your camera. So now basically you're going to cross this bridge here through a scripted event. You're going to fall down, and we'll be introduced to Nick and Laird. So again, you're forced to watch this required cutscene, unskippable cutscene, yet again. And in this section, you're going to face a ton of these cutscenes coming up. There's one where you have to wait until you're nailed on the cross, again required to watch, because again, this game is going for immersion for whatever reason. Immersion on your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, your sixth, your seventh, your eighth, your ninth, your 10th, and the numbers just go on until you finally beat this run. Immersion where you cannot skip the cutscenes, where you have to sit through this forever. So as I said in my first video, I was watching a stream, or at least listening to a stream while doing this. And that's what helped me get through this run. Especially the dull moments like this. But yeah, I believe that in my attempts for Insane, I actually don't believe I died on the Nick and Laird section. I died plenty of times trying to figure out a strategy in that very first part where they start firing the arrows at you. And when we get to that section, I'll explain it a bit more. But in my Insane run, I don't believe I died in those sections. So the only parts that I died at in my Insane attempts, to my recollection, and I did these on stream, by the way, which is also uploaded to YouTube if you're interested in watching. I did die at Marta when you are pushing the carriage to jump over the fence. I died over there because I waited too long on the other side of the fence, and she ended up going all the way around and killing me with her axe. And then the second time I died was actually the part just before you go down into the mines, because I made a wrong turn at an intersection at a chase sequence. And you guys might be familiar with what that chase sequence is, considering this is a walkthrough, and I hope that the people watching this are getting some assistance from this. But again, those I believe are the parts where I died, and this was my third or fourth attempt at Insane. But again, guys, like I said in my first video, the best thing to do is to always practice the sections that you're not feeling as confident about. Even if you're feeling 90% confident that you will do well in that part, practice it multiple times using chapter select on Nightmare. The difficulty does not, the enemy strength, the enemy locations does not change on Nightmare. It's the complete same as it is on Insane. Again, the only difference is that there's no checkpoints, there's no save points, and you have to play the game from start to finish. Alright, we're going to focus in on this part. This guy is going to scriptedly vomit on you, which is very pleasant, as you can see. Oh yeah, that green vomit, flu-like vomit. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through here, There's a guy that comes down that hill, and he actually does attack you. But what I do is I purposely get grabbed by this guy who's hanging outside of the tent area here. So that way that guy just runs past me, the guy who would have stabbed me with his shiv. So then keep running through here, run up to the left, past this fence area, and you're going to climb up this bloodstained rock. And shimmy to the left here. You'll see that Nick and Lard are abusing some guy down there. Jump up this rock to the left, and this is also going to be scripted. You're going to fall down here, right into the vomit. Blake just has his hand smack dab into that vomit. So yeah, this is the section that I was talking about that I had the most trouble with, because I watched videos, PS4 Trophies, I believe, made a video where you have to stand behind one of these trees to the right. And he stands while standing up straight, and he does not get damaged for whatever reason. I tried to mimic that strategy, and it does not work. So instead, I do what you're seeing right now. I go behind that tree there, I wait until he fires a few arrows, and he starts to walk around to find me. As soon as he starts to walk around to find me, I book it to the left and run to where you're supposed to go between these two houses. I do not get hit with an arrow during this section. Which, call it luck, call it, whatever you ever want to call it. I did that multiple times, and I did not have much trouble. The different strategies that I used, ended up with me getting shot to the head by an arrow from Nick and Laird. And it was the most frustrating section of the game, and I hated it. So anyway, you're going to go to this area, you're going to hit that computer, move to the left here. This is not quite that chase sequence as before, but I treat it like it because, again, for whatever reason, my memory is shit, and I was blending these two sequences together. So when that happens, I run away because I think Licky Tongue Monster is going to come after me with all his tongues, and he wants to stick them into all my orifices of my body. So I run past this and go to this locker over here, and you get a glimpse of Blake's lovely fingernails that look like he hasn't trimmed or washed them in a long time. And honestly, I don't know how someone could look like a decaying corpse like that, but he's been through a lot, and I don't believe honestly that someone's fingernails could get that dirty. But then again, I've never experienced something like this, so who am I to say, right? So anyway, you're going to hear Jessica. Jessica is honestly the beacon of light that helps you through this area. And jump up to this vent. Nothing can really kill you in that area yet, but Licky Tongue Monster will come out later in the school sections. So now we're going back to unskippable cutscenes, where this is the infamous section where Blake and Laird are going to put you up on the cross and nail you there. I don't know, maybe they're a fan of Mel Gibson and they really like Passion of the Christ, and the devs just wanted to put it in this game. But yeah, they decided to do this in this game, and honestly, it's kind of like they were trying too hard, in my opinion. Especially with this whole blood in the mouth thing right now, that was just too grotesque. That was just a little too much. You can do horror without so much gore and just so much exaggeration. So, anyway, folks, since we have some downtime, I'm going to go through, again, my trophy hunting habits. Ever since I started trophy hunting, it was actually my really good friend who got me into trophy hunting, and if he watches this video, I'm sure he knows who he is. But I wouldn't have ever paid attention to trophies if it was not for him. And I believe my first video game was on the PlayStation 3, and it was Resident Evil 5 that I started hunting trophies for. And don't get me wrong, I loved playing games to completion. There were some of them that I'd love to 100% and get everything done with them. But back then, I would not go for any hardest difficulty trophies, or hardest difficulty completions in general. I was a fraidy cat when it came to playing hardest difficulties. I was scared out of my mind, and mainly for the failing. I was afraid to fail when I played hardest difficulties, or if I thought to attempt one of them in any way, shape, or form when I was younger. So, trophies honestly encouraged me to try harder difficulties. And that actually led me to a really good YouTuber who I watch all the time now these days, and I watch a lot of streams of him. His name is SHAREfactory, and that led me to watching his videos. And I started watching him when he played Metal Gear Rising on Revengeance difficulty, and you had to effectively no damage all of the levels in that game in order to get S ranks throughout the entire game on the hardest difficulty. So I would not touch hardest difficulties, and trophies helped me come out of that shell, that comfort shell, in terms of video games. And honestly, as you break out of that shell, as you realize, your hobby is becoming too easy or whatever you like doing, you just want to throw in a challenge for yourself, I highly recommend trying hardest difficulties for games. Especially if you're willing to, and especially you have the time to. Because again, it can be one of the most exhilarating things in the world and most rewarding things in the world. A case in point of this is Devil May Cry 3. Devil May Cry 3, even on its normal difficulty, is very challenging because, again, it was a PlayStation 2 game back in the day. I did not touch Devil May Cry 3 on normal. I played on easy the entire first playthrough of mine because, again, normal was too hard for me on that game. It was really difficult. And, a lot of people tend to play easier difficulties because they want to get through the story, they want to see what happens with the character, and they don't want difficulty to be this obstacle getting in their way, which I can understand. So back in the day, I used to focus on mainly story in games and not really the challenge of games. But now I'm getting to that point where story is becoming a little less important to me. Don't get me wrong, I love a good story in games these days, but it's not as important as it was when I was growing up and first getting into games. So now, I'll come back to that topic again a bit, because right now you're off the cross and you're bleeding right now, so you need to find bandages. This part is kind of disorienting because the camera is shaking, it's moving from side to side, there's blood on the screen, and you'll see here that this part is not too bad. I'm waiting over here for two enemies to walk away, and I go into the crouching position. You're going to see a guy walk that way to the left of the fire, and that's good. That's exactly what we want to happen. So go ahead and crouch your way through. You're crawling through this grass right here, as you can see from my gameplay. And I make my way just to the right of the flame here. Don't touch the flame because it will damage you. In fact, I don't even think I tried to see if the flame would damage me. But that guy right there, who's in front of me right now, he grabbed me and ruined this whole run during my practice run. And that was really shocking, and that scared the crap out of me. So don't repeat what I did before. Try to avoid that guy in front of us right there, laying down next to the fire. He grabs you, run is almost effectively over. So now you'll see the power of bandages and how they can just heal you instantly from being nailed to a cross in a video game. Because that's video games 101, right? They try to make them so realistic, but again, why make them realistic? They're a freaking game, for gosh sakes. Let us have all the power in the world. Let us just be ridiculous and fun. Kind of like Yakuza Kiwami, which is, I love the Yakuza series. I've only seen a lot of gameplay, and the only one I've played to completion to 100% is Yakuza Kiwami. And I absolutely love the heat actions in that game. The heat actions are what make me smile whenever I'm playing that game, because you feel overpowered as fuck. You feel entirely overpowered, and is the greatest aspect of that game, in my opinion. I absolutely love that. So anyway, you're going to see here that I have a oh shit moment pretty soon coming up. I believe it's coming up in a little bit, but you'll see. Don't do what I'm about to do just now. Do not do this. I know this is a walkthrough. I know this run is supposed to be clean, but that guy, for whatever reason, he almost shivved me, and you could hear the whiff of his blade going across the air as I'm running by him. You can run by him way faster than I just did, but I, for whatever reason, got lost yet again, even on this. After doing practice runs and practice runs and practice runs, I got lost. Because like I said in part 1, your nerves just get to you. Your nerves just get the better of you. And doing as much practice as you can help in that regard. So anyway, folks, again, growing up I would never touch harder difficulties because I was too afraid. So, alright, in this section right here, you're going to crouch underneath the water. And you're going to be so surprised because I didn't think Blake could hold his breath this long underneath water. Which was one of the best aspects about this game, because I thought Blake could only hold his breath for probably 2 seconds and you'd have to surface. But no, you can basically wait until Nick and Laird, who are straight ahead with the flashlight beam, they're going to start moving around back and forth, back and forth. They're going to turn it away for a little bit, and it'll seem like they're not going to do it. See, like now. But they're going to do it again. Just wait. Oh, they didn't. Okay. My memory is shit. I apologize. But when they do that, you can get out of the water, and you can make your way to the hut where they stole your camera, and recover it back again. And I grab another bandage just because I'm a paranoid bastard, and I pick up my camera, which is going to transition back to the school. So yeah, folks, I never touched harder difficulties when I was growing up, and watching some of Seraphim17's videos helped inspire me that I did have the power to do them. I could, with practice, with getting the feel for it, and with being familiar with the game mechanics. And again, I wanted to do something a little more challenging because I always like to complete games to 100%, especially when it comes to trophies. There are certain games, however, I will not do 100% because, again, I don't feel they're worth my time. In this section right here, by the way, Licky Tongue's gonna spawn. I use my night vision for a little bit because I'm paranoid as fuck, and I run down this hallway. He's chasing after you, but again, you probably don't have to run this far. I go and crouch behind this locker like I did before, and I accidentally activate my night vision like an idiot. But yeah, don't use as much night vision as I did. Wait a little bit for the scenery, the environmental cues to go away, all those patterns on the hallways to disappear, and you'll be safe. So then I make my way back to this office, and I pick up the phone, of which you're going to get a lovely message, and shortly be attacked, as you'll see.
I need you to stay calm. We're going to get you help. We'll get you out of there. I want you to find a place to hide. Someplace safe where you can remember the taste of.
But yeah, folks, I'm actually very OCD when it comes to my trophy list. And so far, it's clean, and I'd like to keep it that way until I finally retire trophy hunting and move on to PC gaming and hopefully build my own PC. Because honestly, as I'm getting older, I'm going to be 30 next in a couple months, actually. It's just becoming harder and harder to go for trophies and to go for those things. So rather than do that, I'd like to do more challenge runs. And I'd like to do those more on PC as well. Alright guys, this is the moment of truth, the moment we've all been waiting for. This is the shit section of the game that I absolutely hate, and probably everyone you talk to hates. So you're gonna, for whatever reason, I grabbed a bandage and I hopped through that window. You don't necessarily have to grab that bandage if you're comfortable not to. In fact, I probably recommend not grabbing that bandage. But run through there. Watch as I have some trouble going through that windowsill, because again, my nerves are getting the better of me and I feel like I can't move. Lock both of those doors, and I kind of wait over here in between the window and the door. And what I'm waiting for is for Nick and Laird to bust through that door, as they once did, as you heard from that noise. Whenever they say something like that, like, "Rest, Lord, oh, his Lord and Savior," they're going to fire an arrow at you, like they did just now. See that arrow going past me? I thought the run would be done then, but luckily, nothing happened, and we got past it. Guys, practicing that section the most out of any section of the game, there's a great checkpoint that starts you at the start of that, so you can practice as much as you need to in the chapter select. I highly recommend doing that. Now, when you're going over this branch, it's very important to hold sprint. If you don't hold sprint, after that first shot that Nick fires, the second shot will kill you instantly. That has happened multiple times in my playthrough, and again, I had no idea you had to hold sprint when going across a branch like that. Because again, I had no freaking idea. The game doesn't tell you, and usually with games in this day and age, games handhold you to the max. Like you're some baby trying to navigate a mall, trying to find your parents among 6 million people. But yeah, games handhold you to the max. So again, I wasn't used to it. Not unlike older games. So yeah, this guy is scripted. He's going to try to stab you with a branch, and you're going to throw him off, keep running, and eventually you're going to slide down this hill. And yeah, the part where Nick is firing those arrows at you, practice the timing, guys. Get the feel for it, and to do that, practice in nightmare mode using chapter select. I can't stress that enough.
We have you. The gospel isn't done yet.
So yeah, folks, now Nick and Laird is gonna bury us alive, which you're really in no danger here. And the prompt on the screen to mash square is gonna come up, and you're basically gonna be fine. There's really no worries here. And I'm not sure if this game is in VR, but playing this game in VR would probably make it way scarier than before. And being buried alive like that would make me claustrophobic to the max. I would be absolutely scared as all hell if someone did that. So anyway, with the downtime we have, I can go on more tangents. So anyway, folks, for those of you that don't know me, I work as a licensed clinical professional counselor. And that's my main job during the day. And I like uploading videos on occasion to YouTube from my video game gameplay as a hobby, just as a fun hobby of mine. And I love playing games, as I talked about, and love trophy hunting. My job can get very stressful at times. It can get very overwhelming at times, and self-care is probably one of the biggest things from that job. And one of the ways I implement self-care is by working out, of course, and playing games. Those are my individual ways of doing self-care. And it works very well because playing games like this allows me to turn off my mind, allows me to forget what happened throughout the day, and just unwind at the end of the day like anyone else's job. Now, let me return back to the gameplay here. This part is important. You're going to face some ankle biters here. Some guys who are crawling towards you. You're going to see a dude to the left of me there, a guy to the right, and another one to the right, and you're going to follow that path exactly until you get to this fence and crawl underneath. Watch what happens to me here, because I hesitated. the ankle biter caught up to me and started biting me. And you'll see him right there, the son of a bitch. Look at him sitting over there, laughing at me. But yeah, anyway. The no damage run has been failed at this point.
Still find my way to the mine.
But you'll see we have plenty of bandages to get us through. And again, if you get hit or if you get damaged as to the point of like I did just then, you're not going to be able to run fast and you're not going to be able to evade enemies. So it's very important to keep some bandages on you in case something goes wrong. But yeah, folks, I like unwinding. And again, like I was saying in part 1, this is no different than watching hours and hours of Netflix, as people in society typically accept more than playing video games. And this is quite a common discussion. But again, people in their hobbies can do what they want, as long as they don't do too much of one thing. Too much of one thing is never good, in my opinion. You know, if you get up, you play video games all freaking day until you go to bed. You might be bad in socializing. You might not have the social skills as tailored and as well as somebody who interacts with people on a day-to-day basis. Now, you'll be much better at playing video games, of course, such as the nature of your living. But you might not be as good as socializing with people. Because again, the more you do something, the more you practice something, the more you interact with something, the pattern is typically you're going to be much better at it. So, again, the key is balance, in my opinion. The key is balance and putting time for your individual hobbies, putting time at work, putting time for the ones you love, your significant others, whatever it may be. Keeping a good balance of it can really help with people. Alright folks, so I want to remind you, in this first section of this area here, follow that area as you did. You'll have to do a few quick time events to get people off of you, like I just did, like kicking those 2 people off. Once you grab this rope here, this is where things get a little tricky, because Nick and Laird show up with their flaming arrows, as they love to do. What I'm going to do basically is I'm going to run back the way I came. I'll retrace my steps back there, because again, you tend to get a little more cover from those houses to your left. Keep running, run over this section here, and you're safe. And that is the end of Nick and Laird. And from this point onward, the bullshit sections of the game have been surpassed. Unless you make a stupid mistake like I did later on, which I believe that will be in the next video. The second part where I died on my insane attempt. And I'll make a good point of that because, again, if you don't practice as much, if you don't know where exactly you're going, especially in those chase sequences, you can die easily. You can die so easily, my friends. Okay? So you're going to see their corpses, Nick and Laird, to the right of you, among all the wooden planks and nails and broken debris. And you're going to start opening this hatch, and it transitions, a beautiful transition, I must say, into the snow. I can't stress how much I love snow in games, guys. I love snow in real life, especially when I'm not driving in it, and I can just walk in it and enjoy it that way, but snow in games is probably one of the best things ever. And I like it too because most people, well, not most people, but a lot of people live in areas where there's absolutely no snow. And it's more so hot areas. And games give people a chance to experience the snow without truly experiencing it. And I love that about games. You get to go to places that maybe you can't afford to. Maybe you can't pay to travel there. Or maybe you can't just do ridiculous things like run away from zombies or shoot zombies in the head or even live a war scene in real life without fighting in the actual war. And that's the beauty of games, folks. That's why we love them. Because they allow you to do things that you can't do in real life. And the same goes for reading. Reading novels, reading books. using your imagination and painting the scene in front of you, yes, with the author's guidance, but adding things to it, adding things to your imagination, and that's honestly one of the best things to do about reading. It is the most fascinating things to do. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge reader, but I love reading horror novels. I've been reading a lot of horror novels by Stephen King, and I've been enjoying them a lot because for whatever reason, horror novels allow me, excuse me, I can't speak today for whatever reason. They allow me to keep reading, and they honestly encourage me to keep reading because I'm just so fixated on what happens next to the character. So yeah, folks, Licky Tongue was going to run down that hallway and basically copy what I just did, and you'll be fine. And you'll be in no danger. This is the section I was referring to where you have to use your microphone. Now, I can't imagine using this when your microphone uses up all the battery. I feel like I would use my battery to nult, and then I would be screwed for the rest of the run, effectively. But yeah, folks, the key here is to make sure the levels, even if you can't hear Jessica very well in her voice, the levels on the right need to be at the max when you're getting close. So keep spinning in a circle until the levels start to increase a bit, start moving forward a bit. And when you move, see, just like this, you know you're going in the right direction. You see that they're turning red. That means you're getting closer to Jessica. So again, you'll see that I'm turning the camera here. And as soon as those levels get higher as she's talking, walk forward. Now, a note here is I have no idea if you can die in this section if you don't do this fast enough. I don't want anybody to find out when they're doing their own insane run like I did. And then you get to the jump scare, where she's hanging there, of course, which has been alluded to ever since the beginning of the game. But yeah, folks, you'll see that I lose orientation and I use up some battery. Hopefully you won't have to do that. So now that we're past the Nick and Laird section, we're now going to go on to the most monotonous part of the game, in my opinion. Especially after the first time you play it, which is the canoeing river section. This section would probably be good if you had to navigate rocks, if you hit a rock and your boat probably capsizes and you go overboard. It would probably be a lot more exciting and better, especially for a second to third and perhaps a 10th playthrough. But the devs don't do that. They allow it to be very boring and very monotonous. Especially since the horror element is gone on all these runs after you do your first playthrough. But yeah, folks, it's just something that you have to deal with. It's something that, you know, you have to get through. And again, I'm not a huge fan of Outlast 2. Don't get me wrong, there are some elements of the game that are very exciting. You'll see here that I make sure that my stamina is up, because if you miss this jump, it can basically kill you. As you can see right there. I think I took damage, but not enough damage to require a bandage. So yeah, basically go around here. You'll see the moonlight in the distance. It looks very cool in this scenario, in this environment. You're going to see a campfire coming up. But you're in no danger here. There's no enemies. There's just going to be this wonderful raft. And now we get to the point where it becomes very monotonous. I did not feel good about steering this raft or navigating the environment here. It just felt kind of awkward to me, but again, once you get the feel of it in your practice runs, you'll get used to it. There's really no sense in worrying about navigation with this raft. You just keep going forward, keep going straight, and nothing should be of danger to you. The only section you really have to worry about is the section towards the end where you fall off your raft and you have to run towards the shed that leads down to the mining section. And there's enemies that will come up out of the water and they will be surrounding you, and you'll have to run past them effectively through the water. But yeah, you'll soon notice that it starts to get very obscure out, very cloudy, and you can't exactly see where you're going until a big tongue comes out of the water like that, indicating that the two worlds between your past and present are blurred. And the siren, the infamous siren, goes off, and now you see all the dead fish in the water.
Hope to God I'm just losing my shit.
Blake starts to make comments about him losing his shit. And you'll be taken off the raft from a big wave. But again, don't worry. All you need to do is get towards the raft and get on it as fast as possible. That was scripted. Do not worry, Licky Tongue grabs your foot. Just keep going towards the raft and hit square to get back on it. I believe it's square, if I remember correctly. We'll see. Yep, tap square repeatedly. And yeah, and you're safe. But yeah, folks, with trophy hunting, there are many people who believe that they don't like to go for games that aren't worth it for trophies. And I'm just one of those people where if I see something incomplete on any list, I try to get it to 100%. I try to do all or nothing, if possible. And I've come to the point where I put a lot of time into my trophies that I want to keep it complete with all the games that I own and all the games that I have on PlayStation. And like I said before, I have God Eater Resurrection that I'm working on right now to platinum, and then I'll have Super Meat Boy. And I know that my goal is to keep my trophy list clean, but with Super Meat Boy, I'm not sure if that's actually going to be the case. Because that game is one of the hardest platinums to obtain, and it's sitting at, I believe, 0.67% or something like that on PSN profiles, which is probably one of the rarest platinums to get ever. So if I'm ever to do those runs successfully, which I believe it's to complete all worlds without dying consecutively, so basically doing 20 levels in a row without dying on Super Meat Boy, and mind you, it's very easy to die in that game. I will definitely record those runs and upload them to YouTube if I ever am successful, which I have no idea if I will be. Time will tell, folks. But yeah, all you gotta do is tap that to get away from the rock. It's no big deal. Just be sure you're aware of your surroundings and you're navigating. And honestly, I'm very surprised that if you hit the rocks here, your raft doesn't lose health or take damage. Because they could have done a mechanic where the more damage you take with your raft, the easier it will be to die, but they never did that. So you're basically not in danger here in this section. But yeah, you can just tell Blake is slowly getting insane because he was exposed to those sirens, and those sirens tend to have some sort of hypnotizing effect that allows him to lose his mind, just like the people in this town, just like the people in Arizona where this game takes place, and the people of Mount Massive Asylum. But yeah, like I said, this game is just lacking that claustrophobic effect, and the mines section coming up is probably the best section that encapsulates that, because you're in the mines, you're in these tight corridors, you don't know where to go. That is probably one of the best sections of the game, in my opinion. It's the worst when it comes to this run, but it is the best section of the game in terms of claustrophobia. Now, the school section as well as I said before, if the game took place entirely in that area, I would probably still be happy with this game and be pleased with the amount of work the devs put into it. But again, it would lack the diversity, such as going down a raft on this river and having to do this for almost 5 minutes of the game, or maybe even 10 minutes. I can't even remember. But yeah, it's just doing consecutive playthroughs of this, trying to get past this game, and having to sit through things like this, it's just not fun to me. Which is another reason why I just need to stop trophy hunting, because again, sometimes it can be fun, don't get me wrong. I love the challenge, I love going for harder difficulties in certain games, but stuff like this, runs like this, I don't particularly enjoy. And watching this, watching the raw gameplay, watching my footage of this game really isn't all that eventful, especially when you know exactly what's coming. Like, if you know that's going to happen on the raft, the effect of it minimizes drastically, as with all horror games and knowing what's going to happen. Dead Space, however, is a different story. Dead Space, even though there are enemies coming at you in corridors, the first Dead Space did it so well where you just felt like you were fucked the entire game. Every enemy that's coming at you, every enemy that busts open a vent and tries to eat your face, you were fucked in that space station. In the spaceship, sorry, the Ishimura. You were fucked the entire game, and there was nothing you could do. Dark side fell. So yeah, you're gonna head back to the raft again once you make that jump, and that jump's a little tricky. Make sure your stamina is at max and you get a good running start. Once again, I cannot stress this enough that practicing the previous chapters on Nightmare and trying the tricky sections, especially jumps, especially places that you don't feel the utmost confident about, it's very important for the success of this run. So again, keep moving forward. It's very uneventful. But yeah. I cannot believe a lot of the attitude on Twitch these days. Like the recent hyped up person that's on the radar right now complaining about their viewers not giving money, their regular viewers not giving money for the amount of streams she's been doing. And that's just absolutely ludicrous. How entitled must you be to do something like that? Why do you have to take something out on the viewers for entertainment that you're putting out there? A basic hobby that you're passionate about, that you're putting out for other people for entertainment, and you're demanding money from them. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why people have to be so entitled. Clinically, I can understand that, but again, we're talking video games here, we're not talking mental health. But for someone to be able to do that, they have to have a pretty messed up background in terms of being privileged, being entitled, not being told what is wrong, what is right, not correcting their behavior, having rules, having things to follow, ways of living essentially. And people tend to blame parents a lot for that behavior, but sometimes, here's the thing, parents do everything they can sometimes, and the child turns out to be a complete dumbass, an asshole. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Anyway, once you get off the raft, you're going to run straight towards the wooden balcony right there. Do not worry about anything else, just run straight towards there, and Licky Tongue Monster is going to grab you. Over here, you're going to see him in front of you. You're going to turn completely around, complete 180, and you're gonna run straight back, straight until you're able to climb out of the water. I cannot stress that enough, and if you're, again, uncomfortable playing this section of the game, go ahead and use chapter select to practice it. And you'll see that we're inside the pool area of the school. Which this pool has a lot of amenities, I have to give it that. For a Catholic school, I'm assuming it's a Catholic school or Christian school because there's the crucifix hanging everywhere. There's a ton of good stuff here. So the budget on this school is astronomical, I should say. But anyway, following Jessica is the key in this section. So you're going to go up these stairs here, out this door, and make your way down the hall to the right. And you're going to go through this door here. Leaky Tongue Monster is going to come after you as a jump scare, but don't worry, he can't kill you. And just run the other way. And once we get past this school section of the game, you'll see my stamina run out here because the camera is going haywire and Blake can't move. To which I'm pretty pissed off because, again, I hate the invisible stamina bar in this game. But yeah, you're gonna make yourself. We're gonna make our way go this way. Through the hall. The blood is gonna start raining from the sky. And if you still need that trophy or achievement for sliding X amount of meters on the ground, this is the ideal area to do it. Make your way up this ladder, and you're gonna come out of this hatch, and we're gonna make our way through another wonderful transition in the game. A smooth transition, if I do say so myself. Which again is one of the strengths of this game. It's one of the areas where the game shines. And speaking of areas where the game shines, this blood rain is absolutely fantastic. Graphically, this blood rain looks amazing. The horror element of it is fantastic. It looks astounding. One of the areas of the game that I absolutely adore. But yeah, on this note, this is where part 2 is going to end, folks, and I believe there will be one more video, if not 2 more, for this walkthrough. You all take care now, and take it easy.